Hello and welcome to this overview case study in this course, Mastering Learning Online. So here we have a case study of developing and implementing an effective and efficient online learning plan continuously for a successful career and life. A learning plan that is effective in getting you what you want and efficient in terms of using your time and money. So this is the case study of name mass, face mass person Rohit and his reinvention of designing a continuous online system for himself for a career and life success. So let's take a look at what did Rohit do. So let's first look at where was Rohit when he started looking at this. So Rohit, name mass, face mass, a person is a 34-year-old person, is a mid-level, business analyst in a large services firm. And he is intelligent, hardworking, and ambitious, which I'm sure many of you would be. But he is stuck, probably like many of you get. And his problems are too many online courses, same as all of you do, I know, being on Udemy, inconsistent learning, no measurable career progression in spite of all that learning, and AI disruption anxiety in parallel. And he has completed so far 12 online certifications in 3 years, but none translated into significant role evolution. And what he understands and realizes and learns is that I'm consuming knowledge like ice cream, but I'm not building capability. So that's the background of this overwhelmed professional. Probably same story for all of you, right? So what is the real challenge? So Rohit's issue was not lack of access. He had access to hundreds of courses like all of you would have, right? Through this free course system. It was, on the other hand, there was no structured learning architecture. He had the raw material, but he did not know how to use them. There was no strategy, skill development strategy that builds on each other, no compounded skill strategy. And there was no integration between learning and application. Whatever he was learning was only learning and forgetting them. And there was no long term directional intent. It was a random consumption, right? So with this challenge, the realized he decided to redesign his learning like a business strategy, right? So let's take a look at what did he do. So first thing he went about was clarifying his learning objective. So instead of what he used to do ask earlier, like what should I learn, he started asking, who do I want to become in next 10 years? He took a very long perspective, which you don't need to do. I mean, 1 to 3 years is good enough to begin. Then he reflected and he defined his identity objective to become an AI augmented strategic leader capable of influencing data driven business outcomes. One sentence that described in 10 years what did he want to become. And here, since he wanted to become a strategic leader, AI augmented, 10 years is probably the right time frame. So you need to see what is your time frame and accordingly, what is it that you want to become. And this, became uh, the clarifier for the destination he wanted to reach, right? So the next thing he did was the phase two. After having clarified the direction, he started designing a learning architecture. And he used a three-layer learning model, right? And you could choose also. Four is an ideal one we talked about, but you could choose, like Rohit did, was a three-layer learning model. So what were these layers? The first was the core domain mastery, obviously, like we talked about, in which you do in-depth understanding of your core depth domain. And he identified his base domain as business analytics and decision science, linked to what he was doing. He was a business analyst, right? Remember? So, business analytics and decision science was his natural domain that he picked up. And there he committed to understand more in depth with advanced statistics, data modeling, visualization, and business storytelling. And the whole principle there is depth before breadth. So that was the domain mastery, core domain mastery in layer one that he realized he need to build on. Then he looked at the strategic capability layer because he wanted in 10 years' time to become a strategic, a decision maker, right? So he looked at what are the high leverage points that can help him, get big outcomes out of little force. And that's where the ROI lies, right? So then he added things like strategy frameworks that he needs to learn, systems thinking as a discipline, financial literacy, and digital transformation understanding, and AI tools for analysis. And whole idea was to move from analyst to a decision influencer, and that to strategic decision influencer. So that was his second layer. The third layer, the third layer that he built was of life capability layer, because learning is a process in which you need continuous motivation. You need to sustain yourself in terms of learning, in terms of time and money both, right? You shouldn't get tired of either in terms of giving time or spending your money. And there he included things like cognitive skills, you know, communication mastery, leadership psychology, because he wanted to become a strategic communicator and decision maker, and energy and productive systems. So, what are the systems that he should build that will give him the energy to continue learning productively over 10 years? Remember, his long horizon is very long. It is not 1 month, 2 months, or a quarter. Because career success without life decision design, such designs will lead to burnout. You will spend time, you will learn, and you will give up and then start again after a few months again. So you need to think in terms of what are the elements you need to learn that will give you sustainability over life and learning. Then he structured his time and energy, right? And there Rahul created his weekly learning design in line with what we were teaching earlier lecture. In that he gave 5 hours every week to structured learning on the topics that he had decided. 3 hours he applied project work, and 1 hour of reflection and synthesis. And he stopped binge learning, right? He stopped binge learning. Binge learning meaning getting on to over weekend and doing one course in one sitting. That's plain simple consumption without any learning. So instead, what he used now is this principle of learn, apply, reflect, and refine. And this built retention many folds. Then he did the implementation of micro projects to leverage the learning and convert into real retention for every course. Mark the word, for every course, he created a business simulation, a case study analysis, a portfolio artifact, a LinkedIn thought post, and a mini internal presentation. And the learning started become visible, and visibility created opportunity and started creating opportunity. So what was the turning point? What was the turning point? So after 18 months, he was promoted to as a strategy and analytics lead. The results, the ROI started coming. He led an AI integration pilot and was invited to cross-functional decision forums because of his thinking, his learning and application. And income started coming with salary increasing 40%. But more importantly, from all this, his confidence shifted from fragile to structural, right? So that was the turning point. So what is insightful solution that we can learn from this case? Now Raul's breakthroughs were few. Let's take a look at what were the breakthroughs. Learning must be identity driven, not trend driven. Everyone is learning about Gen AI. I should also learn. No. If your Gen AI doesn't fit in, don't learn. Just learn about, business models. How can business models be applied for decision making? Do a decision online course, right? Decision making. This is a scientist course. Second insight that we can say is online learning must be systematized. It must, like he decided to go over 10 years and also build his energy and productivity system, you must build a system that can continuously do online. And the third key learning was applications must exceed consumption because they have much more ROI. They can give you 7 times more understanding and retention and capability then plain simple consumption of courses. So is the case with reflection with peers and mentors, because that again gives you two more times retention than only plain learning. So the reflection builds insight. And to learn and become a master in learning, your learning must compound across these things, through various ways: consumption of online courses, application, reflection, discussion, and there you start, like you can start mastering learning online. So, what is the continuous learning system framework that he used, and what you can also partly draw from? You can replicate this model. The step one is to define your identity. Could he define 10 years? You could define 3 years, 1 year, whatever you're comfortable. And then you answer basically question, who must I become? And it will depend on which phase of life are you in. If you are in the acquisition phase of skills, then you may have maybe 1 year, 2 year. If you are longer working, then you might have a longer horizon and define that identity, like Rohit did. Then what you do is you build a he built a three-layer skill architecture in terms of core depth, strategic leverage, and life sustainability. You could do a three-layer, you could do a four-layer. The third step was a weekly cadence of design, design your weekly system of learning. Because learning without schedule is a wishful thinking. And what happens? You must set aside time every day, every week, and keep doing it continuously for a quarter and then review. Convert every course into output of projects, case studies, articles, presentation, teaching others. And that is a benefit for you on multiplying your learning and retaining. And then you do quarterly reviews of what improved, what compounded, what created opportunity, what was wasted effort, and then adjust. So learn daily, decide direction, learn daily, think of it, build a framework, a layered framework, parallel three, four things, then start doing designing, then converting every course into output, reviewing quarterly and adjusting, and keep doing every 3 months like he did. And after 18 months, he got brilliant results, didn't he? So what's the deeper lesson that we can draw from this case study? Online learning, as many of us we keep doing, is not about collecting certificate. It's about designing a compounding capability engine for your life that will keep chugging along and keep projecting you in the higher levels, echelons of your life in terms of growth, right? So that's the deeper lesson. So what's the final insight we can draw from this case? Rohit did not aim to learn more, right? He aimed to think better, decide better, contribute at higher leverage. Leverage is the word. Using those skills that he'll learn, build optionality for himself, and stay adaptive in this AI era by reviewing quarterly. And his success as a result was not accidental, it was architected, and you can also architect. So, what is next? What else? We start by looking at how can you answer these three questions and define your career direction over 3 to 10 years time. You choose the frame and answer these questions. What role do I want to grow into? What problems do I want to be known? In what industries? And we will take 3 lectures, each answer helping you understand how to answer these questions meaningfully to set a clear career direction. So thank you so much for watching this overview case study. I hope you have learned a lot of new things, you've enjoyed. And if you have any questions, do come back. I'm happy to discuss with you to help you learn more through a Google Meet or a phone call. And do look at the PDF file to see anything else that you want to learn that you missed while I was talking to you.